First, I'd like to thank Jayajit both for inviting me as well as clarifying that I'm not an active political practitioner. So, all of us here today are probably here because of our work related to governance and whatever we tend to do in small towns and villages. These places are definitely remote and these places are definitely way off the highways. And as some casual writers or some speakers might say, these places are unchanged for the last millennia. Trust me, that is far from the truth. That is not the case.
I'm sorry, I'll interrupt you. Just to explain, he comes from the more developed part of the country, that's Haryana. So he is having a different view from what Pradyut and Vaishali will have. So just to give the background.
No, but still, even if I wasn't from Haryana, these people in these villages use the same construction material that you use here, use the same machinery for agriculture processing that is used anywhere in India, share the same national narrative through the television, through the, let's say, the newspapers that you guys read, and pretty much everything. You might be surprised, and Vaishali clearly pointed out that the best way these days to teach people computers or internet in villages is to hook them to Facebook. That's the first thing we do when we do development is open a Facebook account and then rest is history. This is the power of internet that we see. So it is pretty much natural then that internet also goes into our social and democratic setup and the political setup. And for a lack of a better word, probably you could call it a cyber democracy. A cyber democracy, I would assume, is a democracy in true sense because everybody is on the same platform, has the same choices, and can share their opinion on the same level, as in nobody has a stronger voice or a lesser voice. That is cyber democracy. For the lack of time, I'll try and, because definitely I can assume, what was politics or what is politics and democracy as people say? It was basically a representative democracy, which has always been a fundamental difficulty. If ideally we were to speak, it should work on a broad consensus on issues, on stands taken by the leaders and not by particular groups. But this was never possible because there were always these hundreds of thousands of people every leader or every candidate had to go to. Nearly impossible physically. The basic tool for politics has always been cadres, religious groups, key opinion leaders, student groups, and so on and so forth, where the associations and the affiliations actually made the difference. So it was never an issue, it was never the leader, but the affiliations and associations. So therefore, definitely impossible to raise people on particular issues. The internet and the social media is changing that. Now one can raise issues, connect to the people who are probably raising the same issues or actually agree to your point, and definitely mobilize people. Let's say, if this is a hypothetical scenario, if 800 to 900 phone users today, including the fixed lines, were to get social media access, don't you think it will be easier for all of us to reach them and just talk about a single issue or an opinion? It definitely would be. You would be surprised to know, and definitely because I work in the development field as well as talk to other people here in different political parties also, that from a candidate's point of view, linkage to a social media is not a luxury anymore. It is actually a need. Believe me, voters are much more educated and aware than we have ever thought. Just recently, I was there in a remote village in Haryana, and the person sitting on the other end humored me on the 28 rupee BPL threshold, vis-a-vis the 35 lakhs spent on the toilets. This is awareness. And these guys, you would be surprised to know, were between the age of 70 and 80 years. People who couldn't walk probably had never ventured out of their villages for the past 10, 20 years. So it actually is the need for each candidate to have a social media presence. People would definitely tell you and probably would say that the internet penetration is not so high. But then I'd like to take a step back and just take you to Delhi 10 years back. I don't think so even 10% of the population at that time knew how to climb escalators. Fast forward now, I assume everybody knows how to climb escalators and do it in their daily life. Simple basic change, advent of metro, escalators installed in each metro station, and people started doing it. So 9 years and the whole population actually climbs escalators. That is the penetration. The more the public uses it, the penetration, the more mandatory it actually becomes for the political parties, for the candidates, or for that matter, any leader or any opinion leader to actually get to the internet. If you're not there, so let's say even Google, what people do on Google, it's a character verification certificate. Whatever you've done for the probably past 20 years or 3 decades, everybody can search and get to know. It's a character verification certificate, and if you're not there on the media presence, people would believe what is being said there. So today we are in I'd say this is like an unprecedented era where we have transparency and information, which is to an extent never before. Every minute, the scroll on the news websites is pushing to masses. This news is not only from across the world or around India, but every nook and corner in the country where nobody ever thought anybody could go to. Or you never know when a random internet search, as I said, would pop your name and link you to something. Or you never know when a shady deal might have happened, might not have happened, would break on Twitter accounts, and you'd see a spike in the shares and likes on the Facebook. This is today. And what this has done? What this has done for us, what we feel is it has actually shifted us from, as Jayjeet pointed out, from an indirect democracy to a more participative one. Participative where everybody has a point of view and everybody would like to share it. Just to give you an example. So to begin with, we never thought that the constituents actually use Twitter. And to use that barometer as a barometer that because the constituents are not there on Twitter, probably we should not get there is a fallacy. Once the leader or the candidate gets onto Twitter, it's the other way around. Every person or the constituents actually want to get on Twitter because now they know they have a direct channel to question that person, direct channel to give him feedback and be heard. So it's the other way around. Today, another interesting trend has developed in developed economies like US, not so much in India regarding ePolitics, is that these days people not only make their own choices or vote for their own, as in people they think is the best, but actually can canvass for people they think are good representatives through their social media networks. There are various sites which do it. One of the, I'd say, the most exciting thing, and also coming from, let's say, an office of a member of parliament, which is troubling for us on an everyday life, is that in almost 60 years of being a republic and having a government, it is only in the recent years that we have actually started tracking the performance of a legislature, a parliamentarian, inside or outside the parliament. Everything from questions being asked, to debates being initiated, to topics being raised, to mere attendance in the parliament is out there for everybody to see and to churn out and to actually question. Even outside the parliament, small things like MP-LAT funds, where they're spent, how they're spent, to any development scheme is out there. What this does, it makes life difficult for the legislatures, for the MPs and MLAs, because they have to constantly perform each day and every day. This is what, let's say, the internet has done these days. It might be the remotest of the villages, but they are the best of the, let's say, as Jayjeet pointed out, the developed states of Haryana and Punjab. Everybody has access to this information to gauge the performance of their MPs and MLAs, irrespective of where they come from. Speaking from... Yeah, you get the MP-LAT fund details on the Lok Sabha website. You could go there and just check how much is recommended. You can check, so for others also. So if you want to check how much your MP has recommended, spent, and so on and so forth, you can go to the Lok Sabha website, punch in your MP's name, and get those details. So, yeah, but I'll come to another point, because the data is there. The power to use it and the awareness to use it should come in. But speaking from personal experiences and working at at the local level, at least in Haryana, every citizen wants to know where the money is coming from, how it is getting spent. They want transparency. And this inquisitiveness has actually motivated us to try and push our districts to share all the information regarding the schemes, all the records, and the report cards of each scheme online. We can, not like to boast, but I can proudly say that Kurukshetra probably has one of the well-stocked websites where you can find details of the schemes, like small things like report cards on total sanitation campaign and schemes, so on and so forth. Definitely, we are not finished in our endeavor, and we are adding more each day. Good point is that today's politics, because of all these changes, is governed more and more by the development happening in the area. And we definitely see, as an office and when I talk to other people, that this power of internet and social media can be harnessed to increase upon the efficiency and the effectiveness of our efforts, be it political or be it in the social development space. To provide specialist care, probably to the remotest of the village, through telemedicine, or to curtail female feticide, which is one of the problems in Haryana, through active tracker, or to even inspire, motivate, and enable the youth through a well-connected youth center in every village, which provides career counseling, which provides you employment news, which provides you job opportunities, is possible only because of the advent of the internet and the social media. Small thing like where to put a hand pump is become important using internet, because we want a maximum return when you put a hand pump. You want a maximum coverage of population and the sweet potable water. That is possible only because of technology and definitely leads maximum returns. And you'd see that all these decisions, all the while, the participation of the constituents is always there. Hence, the participatory nature. Definitely, I know that I have been like really pompoing, let's say, the internet and whatever has been done in the internet and the social media space, and seem to be an ardent supporter of internet and its free usage. I wouldn't deny that. But at the same time, I would really like to point out, let's say, some issues. Probably to define it well, we've got into an age which, for a lack of a word, I'll use Wesley Donehau's, he's an internet consultant's word, of over-democratization. Why over-democratization? Because we need to give our politicians across party lines, not talking about a single party, but we need to give our politicians the flexibility to design laws and take tough decisions without their every decision becoming a referendum, actually, on Facebook or Twitter. That is what we are running into these days. Every decision they take becomes a referendum and goes into the loop. Also, in my opinion, as I said before, the common masses might have the data, but might not be that aware on how to use the data or the background on the data. Small thing, SSA, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, everybody's heard about the scheme. There are various components to it. You go on the net, you can find the various components. For the first 6 to 8 months, you'd probably see a zero expenditure against the school uniform and the school notebooks. And definitely, I'm pretty sure if you were to see this in your district, you would go to the district collector or to the MP and say, no money is being spent on school uniforms, no money is being spent on school notebooks, probably the money will lapse or you'll eat it up. No, that's not the case, because that money is actually meant to be spent in the last, let's say, last quarter or the last 2 months, because that is when the session starts. You'd probably see it for the 6 and 8 months as zero, and you'd probably go to your MPs and scream at him, but then we need to understand. So this is where, or let's say MP lads, when we say MP lads, like I just told you guys, MP lads, you have the recommendation, you have this thing. The problem is,
it is also important for them to inform it in the same table. What is playing in the bottom line of the comment saying, this is the bonus is on them. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I could answer that saying that by simply saying that not everybody goes into the fine print or the details. Let's be frank, everybody wants to make a headline out of whatever is there. But definitely, that could be a solution. But we need to be wary of these things. Let's say MP lads, I just talked about, and I'm pretty sure you'd just probably go home and open up a MP lads and see what your MPs actually recommended or what has been spent. And then you'd come back saying, my MPs just spent 60%. The better number to look at is the recommendation, because the power to spend lies with the district administration, and they need to spend it, and they spend it slowly. What your MP can do is actually recommend the stuff. So these are small points, but definitely, unless until you go and check, you raise that question, you would not get the answers. But just be a bit wary of it, because what happens, sometimes people who are not that aware get victimized by media propagandas and so on and so forth. Another problem that I feel, and I'd probably wrap it up quick, another problem that I feel is that being exposed to such, let's say, volleys of information about government processes and going through the administrative clutter, the masses lose focus and objectivity. Let me give you an example. When you go into a restaurant, and if I was to make you wait and show you how the food is cooked and everything, I would say 8 out of the 10 times, you'd probably not enjoy the food. Because you will be lost in analyzing the process of preparing the food instead of enjoying the taste and the aroma at the end. Or you'll probably be just, let's say, out on enthusiasm on it. Your purpose in going to a restaurant was to enjoy the prepared food and not to know the process of preparing the same. This is what happens when we cut through the administrative clutter, or probably just wait for the processes to get over. In conclusion, I would definitely have told you what things to be wary of, but I would like to reiterate, despite of the shortcomings, I talked about the changes are inevitable for all of us sitting here and for all of us sitting out there, both sides of the table. And in the long run, they would be definitely beneficial. It is an improvement in progress, it is a work in progress, and they would be beneficial in the long run. So we need to just gear up for it. I would just like to finish this by thanking Jayjeet and the organizers for making this forum, building it up to get the views there on the table. Thanks a lot.